1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go's second annual 31 Days of Horror. Day 1. We are in for quite a ride. I'm your host, Precious D, and with me I have a guest today, Timothy S. Brannon. Welcome to the show, Timothy.
Hey, thanks. Tim's fine, to be honest with you, but I'm thrilled to be here, to be honest with you. Excited to get going with October.
Some people are ready in September to get going with October.
I was ready in August.
I saw Halloween stuff in Dollar General in August, and I was irate. And I've already seen Christmas stuff. I would like Thanksgiving to be able to be Thanksgiving before Christmas kicks in. And I love Halloween, but, I don't need it to take over the entire year.
I think I would be. I'd be all right with that, yeah.
Well, it stops being special if it's on all the time.
That is true. That is true.
Timothy, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Great. So my name's Tim Brannon, and I am a game designer. I have been working in game design for about 20 years now, and I'm going to say 20 years professionally, but it's been longer than that, sort of as an amateur. But in particular, I write my genre is horror, and I write a lot of old school OSR books about witches and witchcraft. And I got started. One of my first big professional gigs was working on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG, which was an absolute blast. And that's where I got to meet Jason Vey.
I have almost bought that game several times.
It's a lot of fun.
I still may.
It is, not to plug anything here, but it is available on DriveThru RPG. So it's a wonderful, easy to use system. And after success of Buffy, we did Eden Studios, did Ghosts of Albion, which is the one I wrote. And that is Victorian horror. And it is based on a series of animations that appeared on the BBC's website. Written by Christopher Golden, the horror author, and Amber Benson, who many people may remember was Tara in the Buffy series. So I got to work with them.
I remember that.
I worked with them both. Fantastic.
I remember seeing that series on the BBC website.
Yeah, so it was a series on BBC. It was Victorian horror. It was sort of described. It was sold to them as Victorian era Buffy. It was different because it dealt, there were more magic and there was ghosts and things like that. And it was just a really fun, unique world. And I got to work with both Amber and Chris on it really close. Amber he showed up, in Chicago. So we went out and we had, I got her first deep dish Chicago style pizza, which is pretty nice. And I live in Chicago, so that's where I'm from.
Okay.
And it was just a fantastic time, and I love doing it. But yeah, horror is my thing. That's what I love doing. That's what I love writing about, and that's what Jason and I both worked on Buffy together, and he went on to do some stuff for All Flesh Must Be Eaten, while I was working on Ghosts of Albion. But since the two rule systems are very similar, his is classic Unisystem, mine is cinematic. We spent a lot of time going back and forth, helping each other out, talking about what our two games were supposed to be doing. And we both loved working on Unisystem. That was really one of our all-time favorite systems to do. And we both loved old school D&D. We both got started in the late 70s, early 80s. I think it was both of us actually for the late 70s. And we were talking about how flexible the sort of basic circa 1981 D&D was, and we started talking about some of the things we had done for Eden, and one thing led to another, and eventually between the two of us we talked through this entire game, and we were finally like, I think it was actually Jason who said, why aren't we writing this? So that game became Night Shift. which is our new current modern horror uh, multiversal game, and we've done a lot with it so that you can play it any way you want. You want to do levels, great, you can do levels. You want to do point buy and buy your skills and powers, great, we can do that too. We can set it all up, and I got to give Jason a lot of credit here because there were a few design choices he made pretty early on. I remember he was like feverishly writing. He'd turn around and I'd get, online the next day and he'd say, all right, I've written another, 8,000 words or something. Here, check this out. So he came up with some pretty nice design choices that I feel makes the game super, super flexible. And one of my personal things I wanted to do with it is I'm going to be able to play any sort of horror property that I was a fan of. So did I want to do Charmed? Yes, I wanted to be able to play Charmed, or I wanted to be able to play Supernatural, or Buffy, or Forever Night, or anything like that. Not that I'm saying that we can do those things exactly for various reasons, but I'm saying is I've been able to create any character I've wanted and play it the way I want, and I've been very, very happy with it. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. Night
Okay.
Shift is my favorite baby at the moment.
Well, we had Jason on to talk all about that on episode 53. So, folks, if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back and load it up after you're done with this one. And at that time, Jason told me off mic that you were the guy to talk to about horror movies. I should have you
yeah.
on. So, since you guys did Night Shift, I thought we would kick off our 31 Days of Horror with Day Shift,
Oh, great.
which is exactly the kind of thing that you could use the Night Shift game to emulate if you cared to.
Yes.
If you enjoyed that, it's certainly a setting ripe for role playing. This movie.
Yeah, it really was.
Folks, this movie just came out this year. We're going to spoil the shit out of it. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's a Netflix original. Go watch it on Netflix. Pause us and go watch it. And then come back here.
And we're going to talk about it. So spoilers ahead.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
As I said, it's from 2022. It's in color, 114 minutes. It is the directorial debut of J.J. Perry, who apparently is a stunt coordinator and martial artist and has been a second unit director and a stuntman, but this is his first time directing.
Great.
How do we think he did, Tim?
You know what? So there's a lot of really interesting things going on in this movie. It's got Jamie Foxx in it, for starters. So
Yep.
the first thing you should always think of whenever you see Jamie Foxx is, okay, there's going to be a comedic element, and that's here, and that's appropriate. And it is what would happen if you spent all your time watching Lost Boys and thought, yeah, this is cool and everything, but what if we moved it from this sort of sleepy beachside town that's in in the Lost Boys and take it all the way back to LA? So I kind of liked it, to be honest with you. I liked I like it. I mean, I like what the director had done. There were some very interesting cinematic choices done with the vampires, done with the sort of world building, because there's actually quite a bit of world building going on, and there's even history. And I'm thinking, well, if they're going to do a sequel, they've already built everything in that they need to. So I thought that as far as the director goes, I didn't realize it was the first time directing, but it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into some detail, but there was some stunts done by the vampire actors that I thought were really great, and they were not. A lot of them were not special effects; they were practical effects. So, what's that mean? So, when you see the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. But there's all of these, I guess, Cirque du Soleil performers in there doing all these contortions because Jamie Foxx is going through and he's shooting all these vampires. He's beating them, with stakes and everything, and they're bending in impossible ways. Except for the fact that it's not impossible because there's actual actors doing all of this. So I thought that was really fun, to be honest with you. It's not something I had seen. Sort of gives you a nice, unreal quality to what these vampires are, and was better than things I've seen recently, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, talking about the world building, we should mention that Tyler Tice and Shay Hatton are listed as the writers of the screenplay, so I guess we can give them credit for the world building. Mm-hmm. It does seem like they're trying to set up a franchise. In fact, I saw some headline, Jamie Foxx talks about Day Shift franchise, because they've mentioned twice a character named El Jefe that we never see.
Right.
So I think they might have been laying some groundwork there.
Right. So
for
there's
potential sequel.
Yeah, we have our main vamp, and I can't remember her name, to be honest with you. The one that's the realtor.
It is Audrey San Fernando,
that's
played
right,
by Carla Souza.
Yeah, because named after the San Fernando Valley. Okay, so she's doing things in this movie, and it's obvious that there's somebody that that she reports to, or she's responsible to, because she's trying to get vampires to move into more of the daytime operations, and that's obviously our LFA character, or it could be. I mean, somebody chews her out for offing the other vampire. Right, exactly, and they made a huge mistake as far as I'm concerned. First off, and I say it's a huge mistake, but I'm saying this tongue in cheek. Peter Stormare, who's in the movie, playing sort of this character that Jamie Foxx's character sells the vampire teeth to so that he can get paid. What was it, Gary? Anyway, you get Peter Stormare into something.
Troy.
I knew it was
he plays Troy.
Yeah, you get Peter Stormare into something, and you're expecting him to be this, big bad. To be honest with you, in this he's kind of he's not a nice person, no, but they use him well, and I'm always pleased whenever I see Peter Stormare in anything, to be honest with you. But after watching him in Constantine as the devil, I'm thinking, God, this would have been our big, main. This guy should have been our big vamp at the end, because he just chews up scenery every time he's in it, and it's like you just want to watch what he's going to do. And I always find him very fun, to be honest with you.
I want to mention a few of the other cast members before we get too deeper into it. Dave Franco,
yes,
plays Seth.
Yes,
his union rep.
That's right.
Mr. Snoop Dogg is Big John Elliott.
Oh my God. I saw Snoop Dogg there's a scene where we first see Snoop, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a guy who has already succeeded in everything he wants to do in life. Everything he's doing now is just side quests.
Yeah.
And so
just having fun.
Yeah, he is. He's just having fun.
If it looks like fun, he'll do it.
That's right.
Snoop, do you want to be on a TV show where we talk about internet videos? Sure, why not?
God. Can I smoke while I'm in it? Of course you can, Snoop. Okay, I'm in.
Natasha Liu Bordizzo is Heather. We already mentioned Jamie Foxx plays Bud Jablonski.
Yes.
Megan Good is his ex-wife, Jocelyn Jablonski. Carla Souza is Audrey San Fernando. Steve Howie is Mike Nazarian. Scott Adkins is his brother, Darren Nazarian.
Right.
Oliver Masuki as Klaus. Eric Lang as Ralph Seeger. That's the union head.
Yeah, that's the boss.
Peter Stormare as Troy. And Zion Broadnax as Paige Jablonski. That's Bud and Jocelyn's daughter. She was adorable. I enjoyed her.
She was so
quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so she actually was I actually rather enjoyed the daughter character because she seemed realistic to me. Having kids myself, I really like that. But all the actors were really good. So I mean, it was enjoyable. I mean, like I said, Jamie Foxx. When I see him in something, I know I'm either going to really love it or I'm not going to like it at all. I don't want to say hate it because I can't think of anything I've seen him in that I hate. But there's like a long list of things I've seen him in that he's been fantastic. And he's not playing. I mean, nobody's okay. I'm going to say something, but I'm going to immediately take it back. Nobody's accused Jamie Foxx of, having super strong acting chops. But I say that, and then I remember, well, he was playing Ray Charles, and
That's
that was
right.
amazing. But I mean, he's playing.
He's done some good.
Honestly, he's playing the same character he kind of always plays, and that's fine because you don't go into this when expecting. I don't know. I wasn't going in expecting Emmy quality stuff or Oscar quality stuff. I guess if it's Netflix, it's Emmy quality stuff. I'm expecting, Jamie Foxx to a smart ass, kill a bunch of vampires, and possibly walk away with something in the end. It's almost
Yeah.
the same character he played in the other Netflix show Power. I think that was Netflix. I remember. Well, I watched it on Netflix anyway. But he was a guy who there were these drugs. You take the drugs, you get superpowers for a little bit, and he was the one trying to find all the drugs out there.
I have not seen that.
Largely the same character, and which is fine. I mean, nobody's ever complained
Right.
about Bruce Willis playing the same character for the last 20 or
Right.
30 years. Nobody's ever complained about, Clint Eastwood playing the exact same character forever. So Jamie Foxx is playing sort of this smart alecky guy who's maybe just a little off the center from, the law, but still has a good heart. Okay, well, yeah, that's this guy. That's Bud in a nutshell.
Yeah. So Bud is I was just gonna go over the plot a little bit. Bud is a vampire hunter who poses as a pool cleaner,
Hmm.
and he's got an estranged wife and a daughter, and the wife's fixing to move the daughter out of town.
Mhm.
So he needs to come up with money for her braces and her private school tuition by Friday. And the problem is he got kicked out of the union a while back, and the pawn shop guy cannot or will not pay the same price for the vampire. I guess there's some kind of bounty. It's not clear what the monetary value of these teeth are,
He gets
other
800.
than a
I remember-
bounty.
Yeah, he gets $800 for the one older vamp that he kills. That's sort of central
Yeah.
to the plot, which he knows he can get a lot more for with Union.
I understand if like the government set up some sort of program
Right.
and put a bounty on them.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is why there would be a cut rate pawn shop guy who's buying these teeth, unless he's
Yeah.
going to somehow resell them to the government or something.
I don't know. Maybe they grind the teeth up.
Yeah, there's some kind of implication that maybe the teeth themselves have some kind of value,
That's what I
but
would think.
what
Yeah.
it really seems to be that it's just you get a better bounty depending. But by looking at the teeth, you can tell how powerful the vampire was,
Right.
and you get a better price for having taken out a bigger threat.
Yes.
In any event, if he can get back into the union, he can get the money in time. But he's
Right.
not going to do it selling to Troy. So he calls up Snoop Dogg and asks him to help him get back in the union. And because the union boss apparently is indebted to Snoop Dogg, he agrees to it, even though he does not want.
He doesn't want
But
Bud
in
back
the union.
which is how he gets sort of saddled with Dave Franco.
Yes. Dave Franco, James Franco's brother, apparently,
Yep.
is the nerdy little desk guy who only wants to be a desk guy. But he's like, no, you need to be with him all the time and then immediately report to me any infractions. Apparently, there is just hundreds of union rules
Yes.
and bylaws and sections and subsections and whatnot that he could get written up for. But once he understands that Bud's doing this to try and keep his family together, he's inclined to help him out.
That's right.
So they go around looking for some vampires. They fight some. They go through the list of what the different types are
Yeah. So we got some.
and the kind of powers.
Yeah, that I thought, and going back a second on the world building, that was actually kind of nice because we get to talk about they talk about the different vampires, and coming into this
Mhm.
movie fresh, like everybody on the planet's going to, they're already establishing that there's rules to this world. So there's 5 different kinds of vampires. You got your Ubers, you've got your juveniles, you've got your spiders, which I thought were interesting. Eastern and Southern. So they had all these different kind, and that actually plays into a part of it. But that was kind of neat, to be honest with you. I like the fact that it made the world feel a little bit more real to this.
Yeah. And that's something, if you did want to turn this into your game world, you could do some things with that so
Right.
that every foe is not exactly the same, even though you're going to be fighting vampires all the time.
Right. Well, and
There's some
and
variety.
fortunately for us, that's something we've already worked into the system because there's a base, call it base vampire package in there, and you can decide, well, this is a vampire if you're playing it as a character. So if you're actually are a vampire, or if you're fighting them, we can say these are the supernatural powers that you can pick and choose from this. So the movie had 5 different types. We have pretty much an unlimited number of types, and I actually have a sort of a cheat sheet that I put together of about 44 different ones that are named that may see the light of day. I hope, if I get them all done. Right now, that's just a collection of a name with these are their powers, then this is how you kill them. But yeah, I thought that was really nice, to be honest with you. It was very cool.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was cool is vampires. We all know, so the classical mythology is they can't see themselves in a mirror, and that's true here, but you still see their clothes. It's the first time I've ever
Yes.
seen that happen.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen that before, but I couldn't tell you where off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure it was probably, if it was done, it was comedic. In fact, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a vampire running around, Audrey San Fernando, who is doing the thing that one of them tries to do every now and then of, hey, why don't we take over the world? I've invented a sunscreen that will let us do that. And it turns out the vampire that Jamie Foxx killed in the opening scene, he kills an old lady vampire, and her flunky is this woman's daughter who didn't get turned until she was an old woman. So Audrey's out to get him.
Right.
There's a great scene though when after they fight the football players and the cheerleader, they're low level vampires, but he's like, Seth's like, why bother with them? He's like, well, I need to get money, and it's a numbers game. They add up. Also, they're still vampires. They're still going to be out there killing people and shit. So
Right.
why not? But there's the scene that I think is really the real centerpiece of the film is they track some vampires to a house. I think they don't explicitly say this, but I think it's Audrey's she's a developer. Is her cover.
Yeah. They're houses that she's building and selling in the valley.
Yeah, so this is one of those houses they track some vampires to, and then there's these 2 brothers that we mentioned, the Nazarian brothers, who seem to have followed them to the house, and they decide to team up, and I really liked that. Instead of having some stupid, wasteful rivalry where they're getting in each other's way and trying to screw each other over, they just say, hey, why don't we team up on this
Right.
and split it? And in a moment of good judgment, Bud says, okay.
Right.
And I really liked that because I think a lot of movies would have gone in a different direction with that. Then we get this big fight in the house because it turns out it's a nest,
Right.
and there's all the different types of vampires are all living together there, which is unusual.
Right.
And we get a huge fight.
That's where Franco's character comes in well, because while the Nazarians are these kick-ass vampire hunters, I mean, they're all about the kill and collecting the teeth. Then you've got Dave Franco, who is like, no, these types don't live together. There's something else going on here. This is what clues us in that, all of these vampires together is something else, and that's also where they find the sunscreen. But yeah, you're talking about Bud, Jamie Foxx not, having the sensibility not to go into a big sort of macho fight thing. He's like, no, yeah, let's just clear this. Because remember, and I think this is something that Fox does particularly well. He shows you that, yeah, I'm this badass, but, I'm not here to be a badass. I'm here because, my little girl needs tuition money. My little girl needs braces. This is about the money. And that's more important than any ego trip I have about being a badass hunter. And I thought that was a great choice, to be honest with you. And it's something Jamie Foxx pulls off quite well, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Now, Seth is pretty useless in the fight, and he's there mostly
Yes.
for comic relief,
Yes.
and he pees his pants for the second time. But then he does show that he has use when he points out these vampires should not all be living
Right.
together. So that clues them into something is going on. Somewhere in here, there's a scene with him meeting his new neighbor,
Right.
and she turns out later to also be a vampire who was being forced to keep an eye on him, but she's actually a nice vampire
Right.
who helps out.
Yeah, you get the impression that her issue is that she just hates Audrey as much as anything else. I mean, we don't know if she,
Well, it sounded like Audrey turned her
Yeah.
recently for the purpose of setting her on
right,
on
exactly.
Bud.
So she's got some
She's not at all happy
no,
about
she's
this.
not. Got that, so we got, the spine, and I mean, there's nothing in this movie that isn't fairly predictable, to be honest with you. But that's not
Yeah.
why we're watching it. I mean, we're not watching it to be surprised. This is not Knives Out, where you're not exactly sure how they're going to put together this murder mystery. Now, you pretty much know what's going to happen here, and the joy, the fun is watching it, play out in the way, and you see Jamie Foxx, make snide remarks, and Snoop Dogg being Snoop Dogg, which is always entertaining, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And James and Dave Franco being sort of very nerdy and scared all the time.
Yeah. So Bud has to take his daughter to a birthday party, which he's reluctant to do because he knows that there's
after him,
vampires maybe out to get him, and notices some vampires watching them. So we get a big old car chase, and he gets home, and we think he's safe, but turns out there's vampires there already, and they kidnap his wife and his daughter. Audrey threatens to turn the daughter into a vampire and make her drink her mother.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
And she turns poor Seth into a vampire.
Okay, I will admit I did not expect that. Didn't expect them to
Yeah.
kill Seth.
Well, and did you expect Bud to cut Seth's head off?
Yeah, that was great. So they cut his head off. Now they'd already established that Uber vamps
Yes. Ubers can survive that.
survived their head being chopped off. So you really have to, kill them good.
Yeah.
So
There's some talk about wood to the heart and silver to the neck.
Right.
Seems to be the way to deal with any of them for sure. But an Uber can recover from getting his head cut off, I guess, if it's not silver or if they haven't been staked first.
right. So that clues us in that Seth was turned by an Uber. So that's who
Yeah,
Audrey
yeah.
is.
So he tries to put his head back on, and with varying degrees of success. And at some point, he figures out that the neighbor is in on this, and then they all get together and settle their differences and go storm the castle, basically. And they
Exactly.
get Snoop Dogg to come help. Snoop has this ridiculous bullet hose that he turns on at
Big
one
Bertha.
point. Big Bertha, big ass. I guess they call them a minigun.
Yeah.
I think, although they're not. There's nothing mini about
No,
them.
not really.
But yeah, some kind of modern rotating Gatling gun type thing that just sprays bullets everywhere. And there's a big showdown at the place they've tracked the vampires to. And earlier we saw in the first fight we saw Bud use this silver wire
Yep.
trick to cut somebody's head off. So that's Chekhov's silver wire because he uses it again in this final fight
Right.
to take out the boss, to Audrey San
right.
Fernando.
So yeah, that's good.
And then we get a tag with the boss showing up and being all mad and getting ready to kick him out of the union, but Seth steps forward and he knows all the loopholes that'll get him out of trouble. Oh, at one point, Snoop appears to sacrifice himself.
Right.
He gets bit and shoves Jamie on the other side of a gate and closes it and blows himself up or something. But after everybody is safe and sound and Bud's still in the union and he looks like he's going to maybe make up with his ex-wife, who I guess part of their issues were the fact that he was not being honest with her because of the nature of his job.
Right.
But now that she knows what's going on,
That's a little,
maybe
yeah,
they can have a better relationship.
That's right.
And then the final tag is Snoop comes up out of the manhole. He has survived the explosion somehow. And then here we get a what I believe is meant to be an homage
Absolutely.
to the Lost Boys. You were saying this seemed influenced by that, and this would certainly support that theory, because Snoop says, "That's what I love about L.A., all the damn vampires."
That's right.
The Lost Boys line is, "That's what I hate about Santa Clara, all the damn vampires."
You gotta.
So yeah, that is Day Shift.
You gotta love the fact that Snoop Dogg lived, because if he's going to be in the sequel, that's going to be fun. Big John.
Yeah.
It was a fun flick, to be honest with you. I mean, it really was. I think Netflix listed under horror. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, but it's certainly under action and comedy, and it falls.
It should be. Wikipedia thinks it's an action comedy film.
No.
I mean, it's not. It is not an action comedy film, but it is also in the broad category of horror.
It is. I mean,
that
it's
there's
vampires, vampire hunters. Lots of people are dying. So yeah, it's certainly.
It is more though in the straight up action, in that there's not a whole lot of actual horror. There's some gore.
There's not a lot of scares. I mean,
yeah,
where do you,
If you want to split hairs, it's not a frightening movie, nor is there horror in the sense of something being disturbing or unsettling or unnatural.
Right, exactly. I mean, as far as horror goes,
but it is.
It's somewhere less than Near Dark as far as vampire movies go. Near Dark probably had more genuine scary bits, and even then, that's still not a lot. But it's probably closer in nature to John Carpenter's Vampires.
Yeah.
Same sort of idea, professional vampire hunters.
Yeah. Certainly, for the purposes of our 31 Days of Horror, we're going to count it as a horror movie. It's also a buddy cop movie,
Right.
And just a general comedy.
It's got Snoop Dogg. So,
Yeah.
so that's great. And Peter Stormare. I mean,
Yes. The first time I think I really noticed him was in that video game, Until Dawn.
okay.
He's the sort of host / narrator in a video game called Until Dawn,
Okay.
where you basically play through a teen horror slasher movie. It's got Hayden Panettiere in
Nice.
it. And I believe it's possible, if you play really well, for everyone to survive.
Oh, okay.
And it's also possible for everyone to die. I think I had one or two survive when I... So yeah, I saw him because they, make the character look like him.
Right.
And Hayden's character looks like her. So I saw him in some other movie, and I'm like, oh, it's a guy from that video
Yeah, there you go.
game.
Yeah, I think I first encountered him, or at least the first memory I have encountered of Peter Stormare is in Constantine, where he plays the devil, and he just chews up the scenery in that, and it's just.
I saw that, but I would have forgotten. I would have forgotten that he was in it because I do not care for that movie.
Not a great movie, and I mean, if you're a fan of, yeah.
Well, if you're a fan of Constantine, which I'm not particularly a fan of Constantine, but if you are, Keanu's not Constantine.
No, he's not. I mean,
my particular issue is I'm a Roman Catholic, and this was written by someone that does not appear to understand how Catholicism works, and yet has made that central to the movie.
Right. I mean, it's got everything else going for it. I mean, you've got Rachel Weisz, you've got Keanu Reeves, you've even got freaking Tilda Swinton in it as the Archangel Michael. I mean, come on.
They make a big deal out of the church's position on suicide without at all understanding the church's position on suicide.
And, well, I mean,
or how
not
or how in fact suicide works.
right. And not to mix metaphors, that's not their worst sin. Their worst sin is making Constantine, a guy from L.A.
Yeah, with
of course,
wrong color hair and the wrong accent,
right.
And a bad actor.
And and Shia LaBeouf as his his driver. Otherwise,
I forgot about that. I
otherwise,
did not
no.
remember that at all.
Other than all these things wrong with it, it's no.
It might be the first thing I saw Tilda Swinton in, though, and I liked her.
This one is fantastic.
She stood out.
If you've, she is just surreal as far as I'm concerned. Have you ever seen the vampire movie, The Only Lovers Left Alive?
No, yes and no. It is on my list for this
that is-
year,
that
and
is so much fun.
I've started watching it. I've started watching it. I haven't finished it.
I
I became aware of it because she was on What We Do in the Shadows,
Yes.
the series.
Yes.
There's an episode where where the Vampire Council is all a bunch of actors who've played vampires, apparently playing themselves. So I had to look up what movie she played a vampire in because I hadn't seen it. So it's on my list for this
I really enjoyed
31 Days
it.
of
My
Horror.
wife watched it with me one October horror movie marathon that I did,
Mhm.
and she normally doesn't. Now, she will watch werewolf movies with me because she loves werewolf movies, oddly enough, but she doesn't like watching any of
Okay.
the others. But we ended up watching this one together, and she absolutely loved it. She thought it was great. Um, but it's got Tilda Swinton in it as a vampire, and Loki is her vampire lover. So
Yep.
it's hard to argue with with that. So it's a good flick. I'll have to listen to your podcast when you review it. That'll be good.
All right. So normally we rate these movies on a 1 to 5 scale. We're going to call it 1 to 5 pumpkins.
Good. I love it.
So how many pumpkins are you going to give Day Shift?
You know what? Like I said, there's not a single thing in this movie that isn't utterly predictable, except for Seth/Dave Franco getting killed. But even that, I suppose, is not that not that new, because it's happened, in I think almost every Fright Night movie.
Mhm.
But it was fun, and fun is sometimes what I'm looking for. So I think I'm going to give it a solid 4. Somewhere between a 3 and a 4, but I'm
Really?
going to give it a 4 just because.
Okay.
And I like Snoop
All
Dogg,
right.
I like Jamie Foxx, and it was a fun little flick. If you happen
Okay.
to be a fan of West Coast rap from '90s or Ice-T's Body Count, well, the soundtrack is great too.
I'm going to give it, I think, a 3.5.
That's fair.
For me, three is okay. 1 is I hated it.
Yeah.
2 is I didn't like it. 3 is it was okay. 4 is I liked it, and 5 is I loved it. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I don't know that this is going to be up there with Lost Boys
No.
or Fright Night. I don't know. Maybe some young kid, this is his introduction to vampire movies, and he'll
this is
be
some-
nostalgic about it in 20 years. Who knows?
This is somebody's Lost Boys. No, or this is somebody's John Carpenter's Vampires.
I've actually read the book that's based on.
Oh yeah, it's a good bit. Yeah, it's fun.
Might still have it somewhere.
It's definitely not the best vampire movie I've ever seen, but it is by far nowhere near the worst.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. So, as we said, it's available on Netflix, folks. If you haven't watched it yet, if you didn't take our advice earlier, go watch it on Netflix now. Help them get that algorithm up. They apparently spent $100 million making this. There's no box office because it's Netflix, so
Well, it's
you can't put an exact number on what it's made.
right.
And they don't release their streaming numbers.
Now they just the closest thing we get is where was it rated the week it was released.
Yeah.
So is
Which I
it
don't
going to
know.
make are people going to turn off Stranger Things to watch this? No, they're not. Are they going to turn off Winx Saga when it's opens up later this week? Maybe. It depends on who the demographic is. Although I do have to admit there's this funny exchange with Seth and Bud talking about the Twilight movies, which was great.
Yes.
So that was funny. I do like
Yeah.
that. Speaking of demographics.
Tim, you said you're blogging about a bunch of horror movies this month?
Yeah, every October I do horror movie marathon. So the goal is to watch 31 horror movies. 20 of them have to be first time views. 20 of them have to be brand new. And
Okay.
over the years I've done different themes. The first year I did it, I just watched whatever I had, and that was great. One year I did nothing but vampire movies. A couple of years ago, I did nothing but European movies prior to 1973 because I wanted to see what Euro horror looked like before The Exorcist changed everything. Because if you watch post 1973 movies in Europe, everything is The Exorcist. An Exorcist clone, an Exorcist knockoff, whatever. That's all they wanted to do, especially the Italian horror cinema, which I think was cranking out a brand new movie every couple of weeks, it felt like. This year, I am doing something incredibly stupid, and I'm so excited about it. I am going through all my streaming services, Shudder, Tubi, everything I've got, and I'm putting movies in my to be watched list if they have a pentagram on the cover. So that I spent a lot of time writing about witches on my blog and in my games, and I thought, well, this would be a good way I can talk about Night Shift, especially modern stuff. And I'm getting a surprising number of movies, and I'm getting a surprising number of movies I've never seen before. So if you come by my blog on the right hand navigation, there's something that says October Horror Movie Challenge. You can see all the ones I've done in the past, because I typically watch more than 31 movies, because I'll sometimes cram a couple in at night, and then I try to do the reviews before midnight so I can get them up. And of course I always throw in a Godzilla movie, because that's watching Godzilla movies is how I got into horror movies in the start. With my dad and I would sit there and we'd watch horror movies together and we'd laugh. I mean, of course, we'd call them monster movies back then when I was little, but we just loved Godzilla movies. So I tried to do a Godzilla
That's
movie.
our main thing here.
Yeah, I'll watch a Godzilla movie, and then afterwards I'll call up my dad and said, hey, I watched Godzilla versus Ghidorah, again, or I watched the Smog Monster one. He's like, oh, that one was so terrible. So that I'll end up doing that. But if you just click on there, I think I'm at somewhere along the lines of having reviewed now close to 400 movies on my blog. I've been doing it for a couple of years. And I've seen a few that I've really enjoyed, and I've seen a few that were absolutely horrible. I've tried to erase the memory of, with no success. But all the time it's great. So if you come by, you'll see.
What's the address?
Oh, the address is it's the other side dot. So it's all one word. The other side, TheotherSide dot. My name, Tim S. Brannan, TimSBrannan.com. Actually, if you just go to timsbrannan.com, it'll get you there. It's a redirect, because I've got some other sites there, but that's the one that'll get you to my blog. Or if you just search, The Other Side, Tim Brannan, it'll get you there, or Other Side Witches, and it'll get you there. I've been doing it for a few years now, and it's actually the name is a resurrection of an old website I used to have back. Long time ago. Back when I was still in school working on my PhD and trying to teach myself how to code in HTML. I created a website for myself, and I did it all in Notepad. And I had fun. And it was great, and then it sort of grew into a big gaming site, and then, all my horror stuff was there too. So it died after a bit because, I didn't have access to the server anymore. So now it's been reborn on Blogger. So I've been there for a few years, and I've been doing this horror movie marathon. It was 1 year I couldn't finish. Don't remember why. I don't remember why I didn't finish. But most of I've done, I think the most movies I ever watched one October was 60. And the fewest I ever watched was 31. So wow. I always try to so that's why I said I'm close to 400 movies now.
Right. Yeah, I kind of do the same thing, but not writing them up in a blog. Obviously, last year I turned it into content for this podcast, right. But I usually would end up with some bonus movies as well that I just would put on the Instagram or whatever.
Fantastic.
Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Right.
And everybody can go check that out. Timothy S. Brannan, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Listeners, continue with us on our journey. We'll have numerous guests. Many of them were here last year. I haven't finalized the list yet, but by the time this airs, it probably will be finalized. But we've got some Evil Dead on the list,
nice.
Some Resident Evil, some Blade.
Nice.
Last year we did the 4 Scream movies, so the 5th one will be up this year. And a couple of other random things in there. And we will cap the whole thing off with Halloween Ends. Honeybee will be joining me for some of these episodes, but she will definitely be with me for that final one. Halloween Ends will premiere on the 15th, so you will have plenty of time to watch it before we cover it on the 31st. It's going to be in theaters and streaming on Peacock, like it was last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I heard the title was Halloween Ends, I was like, do you promise? Because you kind of said that before and it didn't end. Yeah. So we'll see. Another 10 years, they may drag it out and dust it off again. Right. But thanks again for joining me, Tim. Check out his blog. Also, take a look at Night Shift if you're one of my role-playing listeners, or if you haven't role-played, you might want to try it out.
Got a quick start that's free. So if you come to my blog, you can find the links. And you're like, hey, I'd like to try this out. I love horror movies, and this sounds fun. Well, we've got a quick start. It's free. You can go download it and try it out with some of your friends. Pick a scary night that you're not watching a horror movie in October and go kill some vampires.
Which we did a few weeks ago. I've got all the stuff. I kickstarted all that. Excellent. But did run ran both the quick starts for my group before we talked to Jason.
Fantastic.
So that'll do it for us for today. Be back again, a new episode dropping at midnight for tomorrow. Until then, I have been your host, Precious D. Timothy S. Brannon has been my guest host. Remember to keep calm and seek shelter in basements. Whatever you do, do not misuse science. We will not see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/MNFTG.